from growing up, what kind of elements in your life you think kind of help influence you and lead you to what you're doing today?
Well, when I was a kid, and I loved to ride my bicycle for one thing, and even back when I was that first bicycle I had, to me I was always even pretending that I was on a motorcycle. That was just my idea. I guess it goes back to then, even when I was still on a bicycle as a kid, which led me to the next best thing I suppose to racing dirt bikes would have been, or to racing motorcycles would have been BMX. Bicycles where it all started for me, I suppose. And then later in life, motorcycles started being a part of it was more of a practical thing because, when you don't have a lot of money and you work at a bicycle shop, well, I needed some way to get around besides a bicycle, so the motorcycle seemed to be a logical choice. That's what I could afford, so that's what got me my first motorcycle, and I was 25, I think, when I got my first real motorcycle, a street bike, and that's where it all started because it was an older bike, it was already old when I got it, and I'd had problems, and I had to figure them out, because I barely had money to afford the motorcycle. I definitely didn't have money to pay somebody to fix it, so it was it came out of necessity, as far as learning how to work on motorcycles. Plus I enjoyed it, I worked in bicycle shops, from the time I was like 13 or 14 until I was about 30, so I already had like a mechanical background, and I mean, really, I know there's a lot of differences, but motorcycles are bicycles with engines, so it was a natural for me to make that move from the bicycle world into the motorcycle world. Just seemed like it was a pretty natural step for me, as far as the next step in the evolution of my career, if you want to call it that. When I first started working on motorcycles, I was lucky enough. I walked in off the street, basically, because I'd been working on bicycle shops, for 15 years at that point, half of my life, and I was looking for something bigger and better, and already having an interest in motorcycles, and walked into the local BMW dealership here in Austin, and they decided to hire me with no experience. They just took a chance on me, basically, and that worked out pretty well. I was like it felt like such a natural thing for me. I loved it. I was just like, it was like a dream job to me, being able to do what I love to do and get paid for it, and learning, and it was just, I felt like I was really, like, as they say, I was living a dream at that point, even just to be able to have a job where I actually worked on motorcycles. I couldn't believe it came true when it did, so that was huge. After working at the dealership for, gosh, it's like 6 or 7 years, after going through like all the basic training and the further training that BMW offers, like their technician training program is excellent, and they do it all themselves. If you work at a BMW dealership, BMW has its own schools that they send you to, and that's where you get trained, and that's the training I went through all those years I was at the dealership. So I feel like I got a pretty good education while I was working there. So I had a bigger vision of what I thought I really wanted to do, even though I loved working at the dealership. It was great in a lot of ways, but I just knew there was more out there for me that I could really, I had bigger dreams than that. I loved what I did so much, and I had such a desire to do it, and just felt really natural doing it. I had a good feeling that I would be successful doing it on my own, and eventually that day came, and I did. I jumped out on my own, and I took a huge chance. But the one thing that's kept me going is just that feeling that I have that this is what I want to do. This is the only job I've ever had in my whole life where I really felt like I was really happy doing it. It's been a huge factor, or a huge area of growth in my life, because it's so much more satisfying to me, and it makes me, I think, a much fuller person, just because there's just nothing like that. Yeah, I mean, of course, when I first started working on motorcycles, like a lot of things, I did think, it's crazy to think, but when I was working at the dealership, there were times when I wasn't really stoked, but, it wasn't what I was doing that I wasn't happy with. It was more of my situation. I think I spent more time professionally in the motorcycle industry than anything else in my whole life, and it's just something I never get tired of. I just have a love for it, I suppose. It seems like it's everything about it just makes me happy, whether it's, just the riding part or just the satisfaction I get from just making things right on a bike or doing things. That never gets old to me. Just the fact that I can take something that has some problem. Sometimes the harder the problem, the more satisfaction I get when we get to the end of the process of figuring it out and fixing it. That feeling never gets old. That the end result, the feeling of accomplishment, that drives me a lot. I think that's a lot of it. So, and just being stoked on what I do. Every day I get up, come to work, and not a day goes by when I don't come to work and I think, man, I'm so lucky that I can do this. This is like, how lucky am I? How lucky of a person am I to be able to pick like the one thing that you love the most and then be able to spend as much time as you want just doing that thing and being able to make a living doing it. Hobbies are one thing, but just doing what I love and getting paid for it, there's nothing better than that. That's just, to me, that's it. I'm Steven Tyler, and I own Austin Moto Works. We're in Austin, Texas, and we work on BMW motorcycles.